Have you ever wondered how subnetting works? It's an integral part of network design, yet its intricacies often remain shrouded in mystery. Simply put, subnetting is a process that enhances efficiency in data management and bolsters security by dividing an IP network into smaller, manageable parts known as subnets. Imagine a bustling city. Without proper division into districts, navigating it would be a nightmare, wouldn't it? Subnetting does the same for IP networks, making them easier to manage and more secure. Now, let's get acquainted with some key terms. An IP address is the unique identifier for a device on a network. The network address is the identifier for the network as a whole, while the broadcast address is used for communication with all devices on the network. Lastly, the host address identifies individual devices within a network. Now that we have a basic understanding of subnetting, it's time to dive deeper into the process. Before we delve into subnetting, we need to understand IP addresses. An IP, or Internet Protocol address, is a unique identifier for devices on a network. This address is made up of two parts, the network part and the host part. The network part identifies the specific network, while the host part identifies the particular device on that network. Now, when we look at an IP address, it's written in a binary format, but for ease of reading, it's usually converted to a more human-friendly decimal format. Next, let's talk about classes. IP addresses are divided into 5 classes, Class A, B, C, D, and E. Each of these classes has a different range, which determines how many networks and hosts can be supported. Remember, it's crucial to understand these basic concepts of IP addresses, as they form the foundation of subnetting. With a firm understanding of IP addresses, we're ready to move on to the actual subnetting process. Subnetting may sound complicated, but by breaking it down into steps, it becomes manageable. Let's dive into the step-by-step process of subnetting. Picture this as a journey, where each step leads us closer to our destination. First, we need to identify the host requirements. This means we figure out how many hosts we need in each subnet. It's like planning a party. You need to know how many guests you're inviting to decide the size of the venue. Next, we determine the subnet mask. This is the component that distinguishes the network portion of an IP address from the host portion. Imagine it as a mask that reveals the identity of our network, much like a superhero's mask reveals their secret identity. Following that, we calculate the network address. This is the starting point of each subnet, kind of like the starting line in a race. We get this by applying the subnet mask to an IP address with a bitwise AND operation. If this sounds too technical, think of it like applying a filter to a photo. The filter changes the look of the photo, just as the subnet mask changes the IP address to give us the network address. Finally, we verify the subnetting. This is where we double-check our work to make sure everything adds up. It's like checking your shopping list before heading to the supermarket. You wouldn't want to forget the milk, would you? Let's illustrate this process with an example. Say we have an IP address of 192.168.1.0 and we need to create 4 subnets. First, we identify that we need 4 subnets. Then we determine the subnet mask, which in this case would be 255.255.255.192. Next, we calculate the network addresses, which would be 192.168.1.0, 192.168.1.64, 192.168.1128, and 192.168.1192. Finally, we verify the subnetting to make sure it all adds up, and voila, we have successfully subnetted. And that's how you subnet. Sounds simple, right? Let's summarize what we've learned. So, what are the key points to remember about subnetting? Well, let's dive right in and refresh our memories. First off, let's remember why subnetting is paramount. Subnetting is a technique used to divide a network into 2 or more smaller network segments, or subnets. This is done to improve network performance, enhance security, and simplify network management. So, next time you're dealing with a sluggish network or a security concern, remember, subnetting could be the solution. Next, let's revisit the concept of IP addresses, the building blocks of subnetting. An IP address is a unique identifier for a device on a network. It's split into a network portion and a host portion. The network portion identifies the specific network, while the host portion identifies the specific device. Understanding this split is vital for successful subnetting. Now, on to the process of subnetting itself. Remember, it's all about borrowing bits. We borrow bits from the host portion of the IP address to create our subnets. The more bits we borrow, the more subnets we can create. But be cautious, the more subnets, the fewer hosts per subnet. It's all about striking the right balance for your specific network needs. And let's not forget the benefits of subnetting. It can enhance network performance by reducing network congestion. It can also improve security by isolating network segments. Plus, it simplifies network management by breaking down a large network into manageable chunks. And a quick note on common mistakes. It's easy to miscalculate the number of subnets or hosts. Always double-check your calculations. And remember, a subnet can't have all zeros or all ones in its host portion. These are reserved for the network address and broadcast address, respectively. Finally, a pro tip: practice makes perfect. The more you practice subnetting, the better you'll become at it. Don't be afraid to get your hands dirty and dive into some real-world subnetting scenarios. By mastering subnetting, you're well on your way to becoming a networking pro. So, we've covered a lot of ground today, haven't we? We started off by introducing subnetting, breaking it down to its core concepts, and understanding its role in the grand scheme of networking. We then delved into the world of IP addresses, dissecting their structure and how they operate. We were able to navigate through the process of subnetting, step by step, and we discussed key points that are crucial to remember when dealing with subnetting. It's important to note that mastering subnetting doesn't happen overnight. It requires consistent practice, so don't shy away from putting what you've learned today into action. Experiment with different scenarios, and challenge yourself to subnet more complex networks. In the ever-evolving world of networking, continuous learning is key. Stay curious, stay updated, and keep building on your knowledge base. Remember, subnetting is a vital skill in the world of networking. Practice makes perfect. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, keep those networks running smoothly.